We've now heard from the UAE government that hundreds of missiles and drones have been fired at the UAE from Iran in the last 24 hours. This is not something that you are used to hearing and experiencing when you live in the UAE. A lot of people are drawn here by the sunshine and the sense of safety, but that sense of safety was absolutely shattered yesterday.
Right, let's continue our coverage of the situation regarding missile strikes across the Middle East. This morning we are reporting that there have been hundreds actually of missile strikes in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates airspace. Let's go live to Dubai and speak to Sally Lockwood. Good morning, Sally.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Just bring us up to date with what is happening where you are and indeed across the region.
Well, it's been an absolutely surreal 24 hours. It was around 10 o'clock yesterday morning that we got word that America had begun to strike Iran, and then everything unfolded extremely quickly after that. Air travel was suspended around 1 o'clock, so 3 hours later, and that was after the first wave of missiles was fired into the UAE airspace. We've now heard from the UAE government that hundreds of missiles and drones have been fired at the UAE from Iran in the last 24 hours. Their air defense systems are doing a great job. They are successfully intercepting them. There have been explosions and damage due to falling debris, some suspected drone hits. But what I would say is even just the sound of those loud bangs in the sky by air defense systems are making people here extremely on edge, really worried. This is not something that you are used to hearing and experiencing when you live in the UAE. A lot of people are drawn here by the sunshine and the sense of safety, but that sense of safety was absolutely shattered yesterday, and it has been a wild night. So around midnight, we received these emergency alerts on our phone. And if you've ever been in that situation where you receive emergency alerts, you know just how loud that alarm is on your phone. It's quite scary. And it was sounding all over the house from various handsets. And that went off 3 times in the space of 10 minutes. And it was followed by 2 waves of very loud bangs overhead. Certainly my house shook by some of the bangs.
Gosh.
And then news began to emerge, I would say around half an hour later, videos began circulating of essentially a hit on Dubai airport. Large bits of shrapnel and debris lying on an airport concourse. You know, this is the busiest airport in the world in normal times. But right now it's closed and it's been hit by an Iranian attack, and 4 employees were killed in that attack. And then shortly afterwards, Abu Dhabi airport was also hit and someone was killed. And that is the second person that was killed in Abu Dhabi in the last 24 hours in these strikes. Yeah. And I'm not sure if you can make out, for those of you who are watching your show rather than listening, I'm actually standing in front of in my backdrop is Jebel Ali Port, which is a naval port here in Dubai. I'm going to see if I can zoom in for you. And there's a large plume of smoke rising over the skyline there. Now, there's been a really big buildup of American naval assets in recent weeks there at that port. And that was hit just before 2 o'clock this morning. Quite a large explosion that one of my friends here witnessed. And that plume of smoke is still bellowing into the sky hours later. That is what people are looking at now from their beachfront villas and apartments in the UAE. It feels like a very different place today.
Yeah, for sure. Just as we're talking, Sally, just to bring this update, that Emirates has temporarily suspended all operations to and from Dubai up until 3 o'clock UAE time on Monday. Now, so an update to the travel disruption there. And just on a separate line, just as we're talking, at least 6 people have been killed as protesters storm the US consulate in Pakistan. There are photos from the Associated Press showing that hundreds of Shiite Muslim protesters have stormed the US consulate in Karachi, witnesses telling the Reuters news agency that the protests followed the airstrikes on Iran that killed the Ayatollah there. There have been skirmishes, I think, between police officers and paramilitary forces using batons. Tear gas has been fired to try to disperse the crowd, but 6 people killed in protests as the US consulate in Pakistan is stormed. It speaks to how the whole region is being engulfed in the turmoil following these strikes, I think, Sally, and the unpredictable nature of where things will actually go from here, particularly where you are in the UAE, often considered such a safe place for most people, and that really has been turned on its head, such is the nature of what we are seeing unfold in the last 24 hours or so.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Iranian regime did warn us that an attack on Iran would result in regional conflict. They said that American military assets in the region would be legitimate targets. The Ayatollah, who is now reportedly killed, said that they had the capability to sink US warships. And we're now beginning to see that they are staying true to their word with some of that in terms of the retaliation. The UAE came out very publicly in a statement a few weeks ago and said that no strikes on Iran were to take place from their territory, airspace or waters. And that was a preemptive measure to ensure that the UAE wouldn't be a target, that we would be hopefully quite far down Iran's priority list in terms of where they were going to strike. And it's come as a real shock to so many people here that they haven't just targeted the UAE, but they're hitting civilian infrastructure here. They're terrorizing civilians. This is not limited to American military assets and military air bases. And I should say, of course, it's not just the UAE. Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi were hit badly in the last 24 hours. And we're now receiving reports that Oman may have also been struck this morning. And that's very interesting indeed, because people in the last 24 hours, certainly overnight, were fleeing Dubai and heading for the Oman border by car because they deemed it to be a safer place, because, of course, Oman has been the chief mediator in these diplomatic efforts between Iran and the US. And they weren't hit yesterday. So people fled Dubai for Oman overnight. And we're now hearing that potentially Oman has also been hit in the last 24 hours. And the official advice today for a second day is to shelter in place. That advice from the British Embassy in the last hour for British nationals here. I mean, it's interesting that Emirates say flights are only cancelled until 3 p.m. on Monday. There is a sense, I mean, Emirates are, I would say international carriers cancel their flights the slightest sign of any risk, whereas Emirates will be the last to cancel, and they will probably be the first to resume. So certainly they're one to watch. But I think there is a sense here that we're not quite sure when any sense of normality is going to return.
Sally, thank you so much for your reporting. We will keep in touch. That is Sally Lockwood reporting from Dubai. It's so incongruous, I suppose, is the word. Dubai is such a sort of honey pot for influencers on Instagram, and I hesitate to go here, but it is so bizarre seeing these people now posting videos of them in their, Dubai brunch hotels by the pool, sunbathing with missiles flying overhead. These people who are there to live what they thought was a, salubrious lifestyle are now in the, one of the focal points of an international conflict.
Well, I was talking to somebody who lives in Dubai, and they were saying this was maybe a year or so ago, and they were saying how safe they felt and how they wouldn't want to move back to the UK because it's getting more and more dangerous and there's crime on the streets. And in Dubai, they felt very, very sheltered. Obviously, this now is changing those attitudes. All right, so the people seem to be safe in their homes, and we heard earlier, didn't we, from a former Olympian who's got nerves of steel who just took to her basement. But nevertheless, it's something out of the ordinary for them, and it may have to be something that they get used to, because who knows how long this is going to go on.
From a strategic point of view, analysts suggest that places like Dubai are in the crosshairs of Iran because they are places that are deemed to be safe, and that they are places that will have a very limited tolerance for this level of conflict, and therefore will go on to pressure the likes of President Trump and others to reach some sort of peace agreement in the interest of protecting, I suppose, their reputation as well as their people. And so that is why Dubai and these other places are being targeted, in addition to, of course, the strategic approach of attacking US military bases, as Sally was pointing out to us. But she said civilian infrastructure is kind of up for grabs at this point as well. It's about pressuring Trump into negotiating for peace.